So in terms of Elon Musk's plans for Twitter in the future, I'm not incredibly optimistic. I mean, here you have the CEO of a social media platform telling his audience how to vote in advance of an important election. He's promising to give voice back to the people, but he's actually trying to actively influence people on his own platform. With more than half the workforce gone, how is he going to moderate and curate content on the platform? His policy is basically to not do much of that. And so I think we'll see a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation coming back onto Twitter. So if you look at the idea that people are now the product on Twitter, I don't think Elon Musk's implementation of Twitter Blue is going to be effective in actually reducing bots and trolling and misinformation on the platform. And that's because those actors who are actively trying to dupe people by mounting incredibly expensive and sophisticated disinformation campaigns, they have millions of pounds and dollars to spend on this. So that's not going to deter them. Moreover, it's now actually fairly easy for them to get verified. So it might even cause further confusion. But I will say that at the end of the day, we need to get rid of the advertiser model in social media so that it's not the case that negative content requires engagement in order for those companies to make profits. So I think what we can learn from these type of takeovers is that actually a lot of people are jumping to different platforms. So Mastodon is becoming more and more important now that people are leaving Twitter. People don't like the idea that the platform is privately owned by a billionaire. So I think the future of social media might become more fragmented, where we're going to see different types of communities on different platforms, maybe even new platforms. So I think we're actually going to see more of a fragmented audience than we've seen so far.